Hey everyone, welcome back to Modern Mindset. This week is competition week for me. And with that, I feel like it's a perfect week to talk about Jiu Jitsu and what it's done for me and why it's something that I feel like a lot of people should adopt in their own lives. Jiu Jitsu's already had a major impact on my life. I've only been doing it for a year and a half, but I really want to talk about 4 of the key pillars that I think make Jiu Jitsu so great and the competition that I have coming up on Saturday and kind of the goals I want to set for myself going forward. So make sure you stay to the end to hear all about it. So to start, I want to give everyone a baseline knowledge of what Jiu Jitsu is. In a simplistic view, Jiu Jitsu consists of 3 main parts: the takedown, positional fighting, and also submissions. Submissions are the part that most people only care about because you're basically making someone say uncle and just give up. But all 3 parts are very key to the whole process and are important in their own way. And trust me, that's a very simplistic view of what Jiu Jitsu is, but I feel like we need to have some kind of baseline before we go into these 4 key pillars I want to talk about. So to me, there are 4 key benefits or 4 key pillars of Jiu Jitsu that I really hold dear and what I think are the most beneficial parts of it. These aren't going to be in any kind of order of importance, but the first one I'm going to talk about is community, because I feel like it plays a major part in the reason why you come back every day and the reason why you train so hard. Going through the daily grind of training with one another and getting better every day builds a certain kind of bond that you don't really get in your normal everyday workplace. I've competed in various sports throughout my time in high school and college, and I've competed at many different levels, but the only thing I can really compare it to is through the struggles of going through training camp for football. Going through the identity program and going through fall camp, you're basically with the team at all times, and you're going through the struggles together, and no one outside of the team really understands that. So it builds a special kind of bond where no one can really relate to you like your other team members, and you kind of just grow and mesh together, and that's why it's so important. Jiu-Jitsu is similar in that way with like the bond you create with the people you're training with, because you typically train with the same people every day, and you start to build a groove, a relationship with them, and you really become almost like a second family. And it sounds kind of cheesy and all that kind of stuff, but it's really true. Jiu-Jitsu takes this bond even a step further because you're being put in very vulnerable positions in Jiu-Jitsu. These people put you in positions where they could really hurt you. They could break your arm, they could choke you and make you pass out, but you trust them not to injure you. You trust that whenever they put you in these vulnerable spots, they're gonna give you a chance to tap out. And if they wouldn't, then you wouldn't want to train with them. And that kind of special bond that builds makes you want to get better together all the time. This builds a sense of trust among the people you're training with, because you can train with someone who's a girl, you can train with someone who's smaller than you, someone who's older than you. But you're able to really cater your level of like the pace you're rolling, the strength you're using, and stuff like that to the people you're rolling with, and you all get a benefit out of it. This brings us to the second pillar I want to talk about: humility. In football and most other sports, the physical attributes that people have, or the physical characteristics, strength, speed, size, really play a big part in the opportunities people get whenever they join a team. People who fit the particular mold of a sport, say football or baseball, typically get the most kind of attention and most notoriety early on. Sure, hard work does pay off for a lot of people, and people do get opportunities by earning it, but Jiu-Jitsu is kind of different, where anyone can win and anyone can lose. People much smaller, much older than you can humble you on a daily basis. I'm not bragging here or anything like that, but I've only ever been put to sleep one time. And it was after I'd already got my blue belt. I'd already been training for a year and a half. And I made the mistake of letting this 130-pound white belt get on my back, and he actually got my lapel wrapped around my neck, which I guess I'll show the lapel just so you know what that is. One second. For those who didn't know, this is a gi jacket. So basically what happened was he got on my back and got this lapel, that's what this is, wrapped around my neck, and basically ended up choking me out cold. I basically didn't respect the fact that he had the positional advantage, and I kind of just sat there for a while, hoping that I would just be able to break out of it because I was bigger than him, and just think he would get tired. And in the end, I ended up waking up with my face on the mat, cracked out of sleep. This may seem like a scary part of Jiu-Jitsu, but I actually kind of cherish it because it makes you come back every day to learn and get better. You have to respect the fact that people could choke you, people could beat you on any given day. Like if you're not there, if you're not focused, you can lose and you can get put to sleep. But in the end, you're still in a safe environment. You're not on the street where if someone picked you up and threw you on the concrete, you would have a chance to hit your head and die. You're on a soft mat space where people know what they're doing typically, and they're able to protect you and you protect yourself at the same time. The third benefit of Jiu-Jitsu is fitness, and I think a large portion of the population that gets into it, that's their main reason, outside of maybe self-defense being the other very popular reason. If you train consistently doing Jiu-Jitsu, you're gonna develop this weird form of cardio. It doesn't really like translate to riding a bike or walking on a treadmill or going for runs. Like I did running and stuff like that for a long time, but as soon as I'd go roll jiu-jitsu, I'd be exhausted. Jiu-jitsu is a functional form of training where you're able to train as hard or as easy as you want. Where if you're feeling a little hurt or a little sore, you don't have to go as hard one day. You could play on the bottom. You can let people just take your back, do stuff like that where you're just defending. You're not really exerting your muscles or any kind of injury. You're really just playing a defensive game where you're able to train and also still learn without actually getting injured. The other major benefit of training with jiu-jitsu is it's actually something that changes all the time. I know one of the things I've heard from people who have tried to lose weight and stuff like that, where going to the gym and walking on the Stairmaster and stuff like that, it just becomes boring. They lose interest, where they no longer really have the same motivation to go back every day. Jiu-jitsu is always changing. You're always learning new techniques. You're doing new types of training. Sometimes you're doing long rounds, sometimes you're doing quick rounds. Stuff like that where it's always varying, where it makes it interesting all the time. And it makes you keep coming back because you're always learning and always getting better. This benefits the people who get bored with training, doing stuff like Stairmaster and biking in order to get some form of cardio. This is something that you're definitely gonna be out of breath for, and you're definitely straining and you're gonna be tired. Like, this is cardio. In the end, it's not the same thing as biking, but you're still burning calories. Just like if you're going to just walk outside, that's still cardio in a lot of sense because you're still burning calories. It's still active movement, just like jiu-jitsu is. The last benefit I wanted to talk about, and probably one of the more important ones for me, is jiu-jitsu gives you a freedom of mind. And it sounds kind of strange, but stay with me. BJJ is an easy way to work off stress that you may be having at home or at work, where you're no longer having to focus on maybe that problem you're having, or maybe that argument you had right before you left. BJJ forces you to really focus on the round that you're having and the way you're training, or you end up getting choked out like I did. If you aren't fully focused while training, you get punished by people who know what they're doing. Personally, I found myself getting lost while rolling. Like, I'll close my eyes and just kind of just sit there and let the people do what they want to do. I'm just not even thinking about anything. It's almost like a form of meditation, which is weird, but it's still, I don't know, it works for me. It doesn't matter how stressed or tired I am on any given day. Jiu-jitsu always gives me an opportunity to work on something else. Like, I could be tired and not have the case of I don't once. I know one of my friends talks about that. But you have like these different opportunities to train different things. Say if you're tired, I can just lay there and let someone take my back and I just have to focus on defending. Exert as little effort as possible while also doing the right technique to survive. Like, say if I do have the energy to train and say I have a competition coming up, I can come in and just train the techniques that I really want to focus on going forward and into that competition. No matter what my mindset is going into training, I always find myself that I'm free. Like, I don't think about the problems I've had that day, and it's super relaxing in the way that I don't really have to think about it for the hour and a half I'm training. I can go back home and focus on that later. Jiu-jitsu gives you that kind of freedom where you don't really have to stress out about that problem you've been working on all day. As a bonus benefit that affects me personally, I needed a way to give an outlet for my competitive nature. I've always been a part of sports and competing and stuff like that. And Jiu-jitsu gave me that kind of opportunity where I wouldn't be taking out all that kind of pent up stress and the need to compete out when I'm at home. I can go to the gym and just compete there every day and not have to worry about it. But that brings us to Saturday, which is the day I'm going to be competing, and maybe the day you're watching the video if I get the video out on time. But I'm going to the AGF tournament in New Orleans where I plan to do 4 divisions, which is gi and no gi. Gi is that little funny uniform I had on earlier. And I plan on doing 4 divisions, which is 2 absolutes, which have like no weight classes, and 2 divisionals, which are based off of my weight class being a 205. It's looking like I'm gonna have around 10 matches, and I wanna set an external goal as well as just winning. Obviously I wanna win, obviously I wanna get gold medals and stuff like that. But one extra goal I want to add is that I want to try to finish at least 50% of the people I go against. To give you reference, the last time I competed was maybe last year. I haven't competed at blue belt before. So this is going to be a new situation, and maybe the skill level will be too hard for me to really finish people all that often. But to give you a reference point, I was finishing maybe 20% of people at white belt, and I still won pretty much 90% of my matches. I think I lost 2, one by DQ and one by submission. And I don't want to go and just try to lay on top of people. I want to go in and try to finish people and make that as an external challenge, because jiu-jitsu is kind of, it gets boring. Like, if I really wanted to, I could just lay on top of someone for the full 5 minutes and win. So I want to give myself an extra challenge to really make myself get pushed out of my comfort zone, because a lot of the stuff I do is very defensive. Both my stand-up and my submission game is very defensive, very controlling. So I want to force myself out of my comfort zone and try to finish some people. That last section of the video is more for me than you guys, but I wanted to set a goal and make sure I can be held accountable to it, both myself, and y'all can even hold me accountable to it as well, because I'm going to make sure I post an extra video at least basically talking about how I did and if I was able to achieve those goals. So make sure to come back next week to pass judgment on my performance and whether or not I was able to hold up my end of the bargain for the goals and stuff like that. But thanks for watching the video, and see you next week on Modern Mindset.